Are you considering moving from Calgary to Victoria? Well, if you are, you're not alone. Alberta is leading the country in interprovincial migration right now, but BC is one of the only provinces that's keeping pace, trading roughly 5,000 residents with Alberta every quarter. So if you are thinking about making this move, you are part of a very real shift. And in today's video, we're going to break it down for you, what's happening and what you should expect. But first, I'm Sean Provencher, and I'm a real estate broker living in Victoria, BC, and welcome to the channel. We post videos every week to help you understand our market, what it's like moving here, and keep you better informed. So if you always want to know the best strategies and stay up to date with what's going on in Victoria, make sure you like and subscribe. It'll be sure that you don't miss anything. As well, if you have plans involving any kind of real estate transaction in the greater Victoria area, I would love to help. You can use the link in the description to book some time into my calendar and we'll get you started. For now though, let's talk about what the main reasons are that people are making this move. At a surface level, you'd look at people leaving Calgary for Victoria and you'd assume it was because of our weather. Similarly, you'd look at people who were leaving Victoria and moving to Calgary and you'd probably assume it was for job opportunities and better affordability. And there's absolutely some truth in there. But here's the reality of the situation is between the moment of ideation for something like this, from the moment that someone says, I think I might want to relocate, to the time that they actually go through with it, there are a lot of times that that person will need to continue staying bought in to the idea. There's a lot of work, there's a lot of mess, and there's a lot of complexity to making something like this happen. And so what I wanted to start this video doing was just looking a little bit at some of the things that would ground someone in this kind of a decision. Because the truth is, culturally and in terms of ideology, there are some pretty stark differences between Calgary and Victoria. Big picture, Calgary is more economically driven and fast-paced than Victoria. People tend to be career-oriented and growth-minded, whereas in Victoria, we are a government town. We have a slower pace of life by design, and people tend to be more community-centric and environmentally conscious. Calgary identity is often tied to career success, whereas in Victoria, identity is a lot more centered around quality of life. Calgary is expansive and car-centric, whereas Victoria is a very compact city and it's quite walkable. Calgary tends to be very conservative politically. Victoria is one of the most progressive cities in Canada. So you can see there's a lot of areas that we're almost at odds with one another, and yet we have so many people who make the decision to move back and forth. And personally, I think these differences are a core driver of what keeps people on board with making the move. Simply put, if you thrive in hustle culture, Victoria will probably feel slow. If you feel like you want to unplug from that a little bit, well, Victoria might be just right. Now, with the ideological stuff out of the way, let's talk about some of the key differences you need to be prepared for moving from Calgary to Victoria. And we're going to start with the weather. The truth is, when I speak to people who are making this move, almost always the weather is one of the main driving factors behind why they're choosing to do it. And I can see why. Calgary has very long and very cold winters. Now, they're broken up by the occasional chinook, but you're still dealing with cold and snow for a huge portion of the year. Whereas in Victoria, we have much warmer, shorter winters. Now, they are damp, they're wet, and they tend to be kind of gray and overcast, but it's a trade that a lot of people are happy to make. Talking to these people, they describe enduring the winter in Calgary, whereas in Victoria, we just have to adapt to the rain. Now, you will need to get used to gray January mornings. We do have a lot of overcast weather, but in return, you get year-round access to outdoor activities. You can golf every month of the year here. People are spending time on the ocean 12 months a year, hiking. And really, to me, I see that being a trade that a lot of people are happy to make. Now, the next thing that tends to catch people off guard when moving from Calgary to Victoria might actually surprise you because it's our housing stock itself. Calgary's suburban areas were mostly developed after the 1990s. So you have large homes, wide streets, double car garages, a lot of the pre-planned modern conveniences that people expect in younger communities. Whereas in Victoria, well, our downtown core was developed between 1900 and 1940. Areas nearby like Fairfield and Oak Bay are mostly 1940s to 1960s. So it's just a very different stock. These older homes have a ton of character and charm, but the reality is they have lower basements, less storage, and all the quirks that come with an older property. In Calgary, if someone says older property, they probably mean something built in the 1980s. Whereas in Victoria, if you say older property, I expect that you're looking for a home that's over a century old. And that's a big difference. Now in Saanich, we do have larger homes, more storage. We have homes that were built between the 1960s and 1980s, maybe even 1990s in some of it. But to get a home that really feels like a home that you'd expect moving from Calgary, you're probably going to be looking at the West Shore. These are younger communities, again, mostly developed after the 1990s, and they have the same perks: larger homes, pre-planned communities, tons of storage, detached garages. And the great news is they come at a discount compared with the core. The West Shore offers premium in terms of what you get for what you pay. Now, once people have made their mind up about moving, the next big question in their mind typically turns to logistics. They've got that big Calgary house full of all their stuff and they need to figure out how to get it here. And Calgary and Victoria are kind of a Goldilocks distance from one another. It's just far enough that you'd really wish you could ship it, but it's also close enough that it's hard to justify the expense. So a lot of people just end up packing their things in a truck and driving it over. Now, it is not an inconsiderable distance though. It's about 12 to 13 hours from Calgary to the ferry dock. At that point, you'll typically wait an hour or so before you get on a ferry, and then you have another hour and 40 minutes on the ferry before you drive to your final destination. So it is a hell of a long day if you do it in one run. Me personally, when I've done the back and forth, I typically drive most of the way from Calgary to the ferry, get an Airbnb or a hotel overnight, and I do the final leg and the ferry crossing in the morning. This makes for a very nicely paced trip. With that said, there's still other things to consider. Vehicles can be shipped or driven. You might do it in one trip or many. And beyond that, a lot of people don't make the move all at once right out the get-go anyways. A lot of people will keep their Calgary home for a while and rent it out. Or they might split their time between the locations. It's not uncommon at all for people to leave their business still active in Calgary or have grandchildren there that they spend a considerable portion of their year with. Finally, depending where you're coming from in Calgary, well, different parts of the greater Victoria area are going to have different levels of familiarity and comfort to you. So, for example, if you're moving from one of the newer communities that was developed in the past few decades, well, I would look really closely at the West Shore. Areas like Colwood and Langford have a tremendous amount of newer housing stock that is going to have the same kind of suburban design and features and amenities that you're used to. They are beautiful communities and really nice homes with large garages and pre-planned community layouts. Now, if you're coming from a more established area in Calgary, well, I would look closely at Saanich East. Areas like Broadmead, Cordova Bay, and Gordon Head have tremendous housing stock that still features really good square footage, but it's going to be a little bit on the older side. So the area is going to be more well grown in, quiet streets, large homes, large garages, and frankly, nice communities. If you are coming from more of an urban area and you want to be in an area that has a bit of a pulse and is close to the core, I would look to Oak Bay, Fairfield, and James Bay. These are thriving communities where you'll find older homes on smaller lots, but incredible access for a pedestrian lifestyle and access to the oceanfront. Finally, if you're living in an area where you have some acreage and you'd like to retain a bit of space but still be close to everything, look in central Saanich, just halfway up the peninsula between Saanich and Sydney and the ferry docks and all of that stuff. There are a tremendous number of acreage lots which are still very close to everything, and they'll give you that rural feel and the space that you need without sacrificing access. Calgary builds momentum, but Victoria builds lifestyle. And ultimately, I think that's why we see so much migration between BC and Alberta on a whole. It's not that people are deciding that one's better than the other, it's that people are choosing where's best for them in that moment. And so if you're considering making a move, I'd welcome you to reach out. You can use the link in the description to get in touch with me. And as always, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next video.